It's still November 2nd. It was definitely an eventful day, to say the least. I know I started the morning off with that weird experience of just waking up to all of these songs that resonated, and just kind of going with it, right? And experiencing that whole hour of just songs that were personal and were very much telling a story, really. I think in retrospect, I was definitely on key with the progression and the transformation of the emotional experience, at least the emotional vibe that was being expressed through the words, through the lyrics of the songs, and that build up, right, from this very low point of despair to building up the courage and taking action. I don't think it's me who's gonna take action, because I'm just doing life. I think it was more personal after the day kind of evolved. Or maybe I did take action without even realizing it. I don't know. Anyways, so part of what today looked like, aside from it being the first day back to work after another transformational period, and yes, I totally believe that skipping that, missing having put in that other video of my first day back at work, I think that was totally divine intervention, for sure. It was, I mean, when I uploaded it this morning, I listened to it again and wow, like what a different person. I mean, it's the same person. But she had no idea what was coming at her. Yeah, like just so innocent, right? And like, having experienced this bliss of energetic, this creative energy, if you will. And so it was definitely nice to look back and at that point in time, which wasn't that long ago, it feels like it's ages. Like I think I was explaining to someone, a couple people actually, just this whole process. I think back on like, and it feels on just the experiences, and it literally feels like it's been forever. Like it, my concept of time when it comes to these moments and these experiences is kind of I don't even know how to describe it. It's like I know it occurred. I know it occurred recently, but at the same time they really feel like distant memories, and I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, we're in November and the intensity of the experiences was, mid-September through all of October, a month and a half, 4, 6 weeks. And it's felt like an eternity, for sure. So anyways, I'm definitely feeling like I'm still in this creative energy, or it kind of became reawakened, came alive again, in a different way, a more balanced way, and it feels good, the creative piece of it, and it feels it feels good, and it feels like I felt that morning, this morning, that it was like I was getting my power back, like I was getting my stride back. I was getting, like I was all pumped up this morning to, despite not getting a lot of hours of sleep again, I was still pumped up. I was still excited about tackling whatever work, you know, tasks I need to tackle for the day, giving myself grace, right? Knowing that I've been off of work for a bit, and just understanding that it would, that it would sorry, it's just the clock. The synchronicities are there in a very apparent and intense way, all day, all day. And there was a point where it slowed down. So I was balancing this creative energy and doing work. It was like just a really nice flow of I was giving myself breaks if I needed to. They weren't very long breaks, they were short breaks. And I would, remember that journal I told you guys I had that serves many purposes? I would write or doodle and just kind of let that process flow. I did listen to, so I meditated after what happened this morning. I asked for increased awareness for the signs to know what path to take, or that I'm on the right path. And I think I ended up deciding that the balance sign would be me being on the right path. And so it was flowing. Like I was seeing the balance as I was working, as I was creating. It was just really nice. And I did my morning shuffle, my tarot shuffle. I am going to share it only because it all does connect, and it's not this elaborate thing like the last one. You know, for those of you that don't know, I do the tarot shuffle after I meditate, and I ask those 3 questions that really kind of fall into one. It's just kind of broken up into 3. What challenge do I need to be aware of? What challenge do I need to learn from? And what challenge needs my love and compassion? So this one came up again. The 7 of Pentacles. And I've gotten her before. It's an earth sign. Failure is at the top. And I remember the last time that I had her, she seemed like she was toppling over almost. Well, with the sense of waiting, toppling over. But then if you look, she's in the middle of these circles, right? And it reminded me of the droplets in the water, the ripples, the ripple effect, basically. But she's drawing, I don't know if I can get close enough to where you can see, she's trying to draw a line from herself straight out. So I felt like she was cheating. I felt like she was cheating. She was trying to get to the outer circle quickly versus just allowing the ripples to occur. Let me see if that was exactly, or if that was after. I want to say maybe that was after. Yeah, I think that was after. But in the beginning, it was more like she's going to topple over. She's not balanced. So because I had gotten that card before, I actually ended up requesting a second card for clarification. Guess who came back? The Lovers. Myself. And this kind of brought up, it triggered emotions for me because of how I described the last time, just being unbalanced. Yeah, just being unbalanced. And then I have my oracle deck, so I knew, okay, some type of like unbalancedness with the Lovers or love or something, right? Related to love. My oracle deck was Listen. Look how pretty this one is. Oh my goodness. Listen. And she's very flowy. She's looking to the past. There's trees here, and her ear has that shell. And remember I mentioned that the shell is, for me, very symbolic and connected to ocean, because you can hear the ocean through the shell, and ocean is representative of emotions. And so that's what kind of stood out for me. And even her hair is very flowy. And so that's obviously listening, right? I listened to MJ's message this morning, and it talked about how I was going to be confronted. She talked about I was going to be confronted with a situation that was going to be emotionally overwhelming, and it was going to trigger me, and that I needed to listen. It was a message from the past. She's looking at her past. And apparently it has to do with love, right? She talked about family members, specific signs that are family members. So I anticipated, and those both individuals reached out today too, by the way, in different capacities. But anyways, so she talked for I think it was the morning message, or if it was my sign, I don't remember which one. But even as that occurred, she kind of, like with any tarot reading or intense large tarot readings, there's outcomes, right? And I mentioned before that the outcomes are all always dependent on free will. So I was feeling really good this morning. I was feeling in my power. I was feeling like, yes, I can tackle anything. And positive thoughts, right? Like my vibe was just really high. And then she shared a possible outcome that freaked me out. It scared me. And in a moment of panic, I wrote down an intention for that, to release it that, everything was going to come out fine. There wasn't going to be like a tower moment, like everything was going to be fine. And then I'd let that go, set that intention aside, and then I went about the day. And then that's when I started writing, right? Like it just started coming to me. So I'm like, okay, just writing stuff down. And then I was writing, and then I realized, I had written down that I kept seeing the synchronicities. But then when that time had lapsed and I was writing this down, I realized that I had stopped seeing the synchronicities for that time period. And I stopped myself in the middle of my writing, and I was just like, did I just alter that process? Because I literally just stopped. And it wasn't like, 5 minutes passed. No, this was like a few hours that passed after a consistent pattern of seeing my pattern of balance, and then it stopped. So I reread or reheard MJ's message, and because I remember there was a moment where I thought I heard her say, you're going to make a very quick decision, and this is going to be the result of that decision, because you're not wanting to confront what I'm hiding, which was my emotions, about a truth of a situation. And so that I'm hiding my truth. And I know what she's talking about, and I don't want to, I'm acknowledging it, but I don't want to feel it, because I'm trying to function. And if I feel it, I'm not going to be able to function. So that was my truth. And I'm putting it aside. But anyways, so she talked about how because of that fear, I was going to make a drastic decision, and then that was going to be the outcome. So in that moment, I thought, I just wrote down that intention based on that fear, which is a rash decision. I straight out tore that thing up. I threw it away, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? So then I wrote down, oh, it's over there. I wrote down, I surrender. I surrender to the process. Like whatever it is that you, God, that you want me to follow, universe, whatever, I'll just surrender. I surrender. Because I wanted to see my sign again. I wanted to know that I was on the right path. So then, yeah, I was surrendering. And when I made that intention out loud, I felt a lot more in my power this morning than I do right now. I not that I don't feel my power, I think I feel just worn out because of what happened after. And so, and I'll share that too. But anyways, at that time I was writing down about, so I guess I should explain that because it keeps popping up. So in addition to this balance theme, right, I had mentioned a comment at the very beginning when I first started noticing that pattern, that the other pattern that I was seeing was like my birthday pattern, where it was 5/22, 9/11, it's 11/33, 7/11, right, where you have one number and then two of the another separate number, but they're the same on one side. This whole day it's been an alternating balanced with this other pattern, and to a degree where it was obvious, and I was trying to rack my brain like, what does this mean, right? It means something. MJ mentioned being part of a third-party situation without intentionally being part of a third-party situation growing up, which made sense because I was triangulated growing up, unintentionally, I believe, and it definitely made an impact in that relationship. And then she mentioned it again in another relationship without me even knowing. And so I ended up drawing this. A triangle came up for me, you know, with one number here and then the two numbers on the opposite side, right? Bottom. So, you know, 155, 122, 411. And I thought, okay, maybe it's another way of being balanced, but it didn't make sense at the same time. I had to chew on it for a while, but I'll come back to that. So that's what I'm like freaking out, because it continues to be that balance and then this triangle thing. But anyways, so surrendering to the process, right? That was like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'll strengthen my power. I'm gonna surrender. It takes courage. And I wrote down, it takes courage, it takes faith in what you do not see, for a future that you're sure about, despite it being uncertain and unknown, right? I mean, when we goal set, it's that same concept. You don't know how it's going to turn out, but you're all, you know, gung-ho that it's gonna come out a certain way. And so that's when I realized this whole concept of failure of the daily challenge. Courage, right? And this is when I recognized that she was trying to jump through the hoops, through the ripples, and cheating the process to avoid failure. That's when that came to mind. And so then I'm like, why is she trying to cheat the process? Why is she trying to avoid failure? And then that's when I realized that that's the lesson, right? This fear of failure, not going through the ripples appropriately, trying to cheat it, like how I wrote those intentions to try to cheat the process because I didn't want that outcome. I was afraid of what that outcome would look like and how it would affect me personally and the lives of those that I care about, and realizing that there's still lessons to be learned. And MJ highlighted that. She said, you this person who is going to be coming my way is going to be, again, was already the catalyst for this first transformation, but that there was still another lesson for me to learn, and that this would be that start of that. So looking at failure, right? Why are we afraid of failure? Why is she cutting through? And it reminded me of that story, and I was supposed to look it up, but I didn't. That story of someone had shared a story at a presentation about how at the dinner table in that particular family, they talked about failures or mistakes. I don't remember which one it was, but it was the topic of the conversation. Every night at dinner time, going around the table, what did you fail at today? What did you fail at today? And everyone had to share one thing that they failed at. And that the parent would, if no one had a failure to share, the parent said, I don't remember if it was the dad or the mom, I think it was the dad, had said, if you don't have a failure, that means you didn't push yourself outside your comfort zone. That means you didn't take a risk. And it was because through your failures, you learn. And when you learn, you grow. So, there's so much stigma around failure, right? There's a sense of shame. There's a sense of disappointment. There's a sense of not wanting to be vulnerable about how much that failure hurt. And so, again, this whole concept of not wanting to embrace those difficult emotions in life. And when you really learn to embrace failure, then in essence, you're learning to embrace failure within yourself. And then you end up embracing loving yourself. You can embrace that concept of, I'm going to fail, and you can do it in a loving way, then you're showing compassion. And so in then doing that, you can then show compassion to other people who might be struggling in something similar. And so, especially if they're in the middle of failing, you know what that feeling feels like, or what that situation feels like, so then you're just more compassionate. And so the challenge of surrendering to the process, right? Me going back and tearing up that intention because it was driven out of this, not necessarily fear of failure per se, but this fear of the outcome and not wanting to bypass it, basically. So in essence, I wanted to skip the lesson. So when I tore it up, I was just like, okay, I surrender, right? And then just reminding me, I need to slow down, I need to stay grounded, I need to stay focused and productive, right? Which is 7 Pentacles, staying productive. And then at the same time, listening more to my own intuition. And stop listening to other people, including MJ. MJ, I love you. You've been like a substitute parent during this process for me. But there's so much truth to what I shared this morning about this sense of confusion when there's so many people, because like I said, I'm in a hermit. The people that I talk to, I don't even talk to them. It's just the one-way thing, right? At the other YouTube. channel hosts that I listen to, but their messages resonate, right? And that's what kind of confuses me. And so learning to listen more to my own intuition versus listening to others, avoid that confusion for myself. And then it reminded me of what a friend of mine, my good friend, recommended that I do, which is learn how to read tarot for myself, learn how to do my own readings so that I can trust my intuition, right? And only refer to others as more of a validation to make sure I'm on the right track, or if that really is the outcome, you know, I guess to distinguish it from bias, you know, like when you're doing a scientific, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the, was it the scientific method in science, when you're trying to prove something, there's like a process that you go to, and then in order for it to be valid, you have to like repeat it and get the same result. So it's the same concept of validation. So I think that's going to be part of my next journey at some point, is I'm going to take a tarot class and learn how to read it for myself so that I can trust my intuition first versus listening to other people's perceptions or possibilities. So that was a good outcome of that, right? I mean, realizing the need to surrender, that the process, again, I was in a much different place then than I am right now. And I wrote down that, you know, when we make that choice to surrender to the process, there's still an element of fear behind it. And I mentioned it in one of the other videos about the comfort zone, and just what happens, you know, when we stay in our comfort zone for too long. And the COVID challenge that I post about doing at least one thing that scares you, right? Every day, to practice going out of your comfort zone and then coming back. And creating statements for yourself to challenge any unhelpful thought patterns. That's the same thing. And so I wrote down a statement: I will embrace surrendering to the process, knowing I will fail. Knowing I will fail, because now I'm setting that expectation that I'm going to fail, but that I will learn and I will grow from that as a result. And with growing, you know, that's when you get those positive outcomes. The moment that I threw away that intention, the balance started coming up like crazy again. And this other pattern that I'm telling you about started coming up like crazy again. And I was listening to classical music while trying to stay in my groove at work. And the music just picked up in terms of the titles. It was classical music. I was listening to the piano guys on Pandora, and you know, we don't really listen to the album. We listen to everything related to that album. But the songs, and I did write down the names of these, not even songs, melodies. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like, are these individuals who created these melodies, have they gone through a spiritual awakening? Because the titles were just too like they must know something about spiritual awakening. So I listened to Requiem for the Dead. Immediately after I tore that up, that song came on, or that melody came on. And then right after that, Dark Night of the Soul. Then after that, Story of My Life. Okay, that one was more like One Direction, but still. Story of My Life. And then it was the This Is Me from that musical. And I was just, I had to stop for a minute and try to make sense of the fact that, and MJ again pointed it out. She's just like, you don't know the power that you have in manifestation. And it tripped me out. Like, I words cannot explain And that was just that part. What came after really, I mean, talk about going outside of my comfort zone. So anyway, so I was playing with this, right? She mentioned third-party situations. She mentioned codependency. So in my head, I thought, this has to be like another way of balance, a triangle. I actually, I had mentioned sand tray before as an intervention that we use with kids for tapping into the subconscious in a non-threatening way, specifically when dealing with trauma. And as an agency, you know, in efforts to promote self-care, one year they provided an opportunity for us clinicians and opened it up to the larger organization, because it's like an umbrella and there's different parts. And so opening it up to the larger organization to give staff an opportunity to have the experience of sand tray. I chose to do it because I had been away from clinical work for a little bit doing other projects. And I wanted just to kind of see what would come about. I kid you not, there were threes everywhere. Not everywhere, but it was very much a prominent theme. It was during a time in my life when I had just gone back to church. So the first thing on my mind was, you know, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And then later on, I text my program manager and I said, you know what, it just dawned on me that I was triangulated growing up a lot, significantly, in a very almost damaging, I don't say damaging, just the impact was so intense that it was. I don't know how else to explain it. And it wasn't intentional. Again, you know, when people are hurting, people will say and do things that are not intentional. And when we realize that, you know, when someone comes at us with certain information, I think that's where we are aware of that it's not about me, it's about them. That's when we can give grace, right? But anyways, so the threes. There's threes in my house in different ways. I noticed that today too. And so after work, I drove around, ran a few errands. That darn number kept coming up, both of them. Went to the post office to drop off my ballot. From there, I thought I need to go get a car wash. So I was going to go get a car wash. And I get there, it's closed. So then I said, all right, let's go home. And then I see the balance on my dashboard. Like, all right, I guess we're going home. Get on the freeway. There's traffic. And the song on the radio. And it was connected to my Pandora, the Bluetooth. The title of the melody is Delayed. So I was like, I guess we're just going to be delayed. So I'm sitting in traffic, going slowly. Oh, I kid you not. These numbers were driving me insane. They were everywhere. It was in the license plates of cars, the balance, and this other pattern with letters even. So like 5KK, you know, 4XX, and it was just constant. And then as I was passing by, I was on the edge of the freeway, so I'm able to see the signs of the stores as, you know, I'm passing by. And I'm seeing the balance, Pollo Loco. I mean, it's just like to the point where I was almost going like, what the hell, what's going on? I was so preoccupied with that. And I don't remember the titles of the other melodies, but it was very like clear that this was the reason why I needed to be delayed, to pay attention, to increase my awareness, right? Which was what I asked for when I finished meditating. to help me be more aware of the signs around me in terms of the path that I'm supposed to take. It was being answered for me. I was so preoccupied that I missed my exit. And I realized it when I was coming up to the 15. I was just like, oh snap. So then what street do I see? I call it Millilicuddy from I Love Lucy, but it's actually Milligan. I-L-L-I. The balance. So I'm like, I guess this is where I'm getting off. As I'm driving down, I'm seeing it in the names of the streets, in the numbers underneath the street signs. And then I finally say, okay, where do you want me to go? That's what I said to the universe. I said, where do you want me to drive? I don't know where I'm going. I kid you not, it takes me down this street and I'm just following my intuition, following the signs. There's a little bit of doubt, there's a little bit of fear, but I'm following the signs. I get to the street and I see this black truck. And I'm looking for the houses, right? That the specific number that kept coming up, couldn't find it, but I see the truck. And my heart just like stops. I see the license plate. The license plate says 444 from Nevada. And I'm turning around, it's like a little cul-de-sac. And I'm still looking to see if there's anything else that stands out. The truck was the only thing that stood out. So then I slowed down and I kind of just stared at it. I'm just like asking the universe, what the hell do you want me to do with this? I park better because it's like a small little, not a lot of parking space with the homes because of the way it was situated. So I'm parked along the street and I'm just like, what? And the first thing in my head is just like, go find out whose car that belongs to, right? And I'm like, no. I'm having an argument with the universe in my car. What am I going to say, right? Like, what am I going to tell these people? Like, oh, do you know whose truck that is? Yeah, so my name is Yubi and, I don't know why I'm here, but the signs led me here. So I stayed in my car waiting for another sign. The patterns were still there. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I was just like, but part of me felt like I needed to. And then that damn song came on. And it wasn't even the song because it was still the melody. Chasing Cars. I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. You want me to chase this car? Just figure out who it belongs to. Fine. And I'm getting out of the car and I'm like upset at myself and I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to say? What am I going to say? So it was parked in the corner. So I figured, okay, it's the corner house. I go and I knock, this elderly man comes. I'm like, oh, sorry to bother you, sir. Do you happen to know whose truck that belongs to? Oh, no, it's not mine, blah, blah. It's across the street. Okay. I'm sorry to bother you. Thank you for your time. And then I'm like, well, I made it this far. Might as well go cross the street. So I cross the street. This girl comes out, confirms that it's their truck. Oh my goodness, it's so freaking embarrassing. I was just like, hey, so yeah, I just curious truck. I drove by. My name is Yubi. I don't know why I'm here. And I'm laughing out of embarrassment and kind of hoping that she would give me a sign like, like, oh yes, you're supposed to be here or something. I don't know. She's just like, no, okay. Like, just kind of being nice about it. Really sweet. And then I'm just like, I'm so sorry. And then I'm like, I apologize. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm excusing myself as I'm walking away. She's like, it's okay. It happens. And she goes back inside. And I was just kind of like, get in my car and I go home. So I get in my car and I'm driving and I'm just like, what the am I doing? Like, what am I doing? And then I'm like, I need to go home. And as I go home, I see another street. The following street had the same freaking numbers. And like it was telling me, oh, and so then when I get back in the car, the melody changed to challenge, courage under fire, courage, something fire or something. And then I was just like, yeah, that took courage. I'm like going up to some stranger and asking them about their car and then not having a response. And so then when I saw this other sign and the inclination was to go down this road, I was just like, no, I've had enough. And I just break down into tears as I'm driving. And I'm like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And I'm finding my way home. And again, on the way home, now instead of the numbers, it's letters with the balance and the imbalance. That's what that was. That's what this is. This is what that stands for. The opposite of balance. Imbalance. Right? We're talking about duality, polar opposites. Balance has been this consistent theme for me. This other pattern has to be unbalanced. That's when I picked it up. And I park, I get off, come home, start crying again. And my Pandora has stopped. I turn it back on and it says home as the name of the melody. I just keep crying. What am I supposed to do with that? I have no idea what that little adventure meant. My gut is saying it was a test. My gut is saying it was a test to see to what length I was going to listen to my intuition. To what length was I going to listen, right? And I freaking hate that I'm crying again. I really wanted to not cry anymore. But that defeats the whole purpose of opening your heart chakra, right? And she was saying it. She was saying it in the message. She was saying it of the moon, that I wasn't being honest. About my feelings. That even though I know I'm not, and the thing is that I'm not afraid of the future. I think today was really a validation of that, of that courage and the that sense of knowing, right? And even the fact that I manipulated for a brief moment the outcome and then changed it back to the same course that it was before. And seeing the signs, being more aware of it, like, I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm not afraid of what the future holds. I'm not afraid of that. I think I'm afraid of power. I'm afraid of the responsibility. I think there's a slight part of me that thinks it's all in my head. But with what I've been experiencing, like, it's just, right? I already let go of that chapter. I already let go of doubt, and then I was embracing it. So this is real. This is happening. And yeah, it's real and it's happening. So, a little booklet. 7 of Pentacles, failure, Saturn and Taurus, fear of failure, limited productivity and performance. You need to patiently evaluate the process and persevere in order for something to develop. Let go of fear of failure. Had nothing to do with work. Like I thought. Had nothing to do with work. It's the fear of that failure in that relationship. The potential relationship. Potential relationship with the lovers. The lovers represents relationships that are important for personal growth and development. The couple embodies faithfulness and the yin-yang duality. Children bring frankness, curiosity, and playfulness. Cupid gives a blessing for passion and compassion. The open arc denotes unlimited potential and unrestrained feelings. The wand is fire, trust and intuition. The sword is air, convictions and ideas. The cup is water, follow the heart. The flower is earth, do as your heart tells you. The alchemical egg with the snake symbolizes the transformative power of relationships. The lion represents creativity and vitality. He is a fire sign of spirituality. The eagle denotes allegiance and priority. And then the oracle card has the 3 different meanings. The earthly meaning says you can talk yourself in circles but remain unheard. At other times you can be heard without uttering a word. The onus of understanding is on the listener. Love, care, and consideration are expressed by an attentive ear and a welcoming heart. Sound is wasted on those that won't hear. Save your voice. You will learn more by listening. A truth needs to be heard. Spiritual meaning. Sound existed long before the ability to perceive it. It was always there, invincible, undetected, or merely felt as low, deep waves of vibration. The universe loves you. Its message is humming, pulsing, and vibrating through all of creation. Love's undulation floats in empty space, waiting to be received. Extend your senses, awaken to the message of the universe. Insight. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there, does it make a sound? If it doesn't, see the forest right there in the corner? If it doesn't, it means the first 4.1 billion years on Earth happened in silence. That is how long it took for sound to be perceived. Slight taste, touch, and scent were already well developed before the very earliest of ears were formed. The sense organ that receives sound is complicated. Hearing, it seems, was a difficult sense to master. Once life could move at will, being able to sense the approach of a predator, the distress of potential prey, or the call of a mate was extremely beneficial. For the human ear in the modern world, all manner of bips, beeps, ticks, talks, and sirens compete for our focus. We have the capacity to be taken to ecstasy by a symphony, but hearing and being heard can still be a tremendous challenge. Tone, pitch, tremolo, and words are just sounds in empty space until the moment they are heard. but it's late. And I'm going into the office tomorrow, so good night.